Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to GNR Central. And today I wanted to show you guys, or at least guide you guys to a pretty cool video. So there's a guy who's got a pretty cool YouTube channel called Days the Jordan the Lion. So he goes and films like a daily vlog about, living in LA, his daily travels and stuff. And he did a recent vlog about going to Axl Rose's old condo. So this is the one that Axl lived in, that MTV gave away in the Evict Axl Rose 1991 contest they did. And then it's also the same condo that he got into an argument and a fight with his neighbor that loosely inspired the song Right Next Door to Hell. So it's kind of funny. I've looked at this condo before, and there's really no street view on Google where you can see like the front of it, because it looks like it's in a gated community. It's in a pretty nice area as well. Now, probably the closest landmark, at least that I'm familiar with, in terms of where Axl's old condo was in relation to, was the Grove. I remember I went to LA about 5-6 years ago. We did the city tour, and the Grove is literally where they took us, and it's literally a stone's throw away from where Axl used to live. So I looked up some of the real estate prices in this area. So the area is called La Brea, and the home prices are pretty crazy when you guys look at it. And the median list price, at least for the homes that are currently listed, is $2.16 million. And homes typically sell for about 94% of their asking price. And the actual dollar per square foot is about $634 per square foot, and the median sale price is $3.2 million. So at the time of recording this, there's only 5 homes for sale. A 3-bedroom home will be listed around $1.4 million, while a 4+ bedroom house is listed around $2.13 million. So according to the vlogger who did this post, he said that at this point in time, like in 1990 and 1991, Axl had 2 addresses, and this address was where he did a lot of his Guns N' Roses business stuff. Now, I also want to talk about the Evict Axl Rose contest that MTV held back in 1991.
This beautiful Sunset Strip property has everything a rock and roller could ever want.
Axl Rose has to move.
A bar, a barbecue, and a pool within throwing distance.
To a quieter place where he can collect his thoughts.
The bed's never been slept in. I'm not saying it hasn't been used, it just hasn't been slept in.
Away from the noise of angry neighbors.
This wall's only been smashed once. Some guy's head, but it's been repaired. It's like new now.
Evict Axl Rose. Take possession of his condo, his furniture, his stereo, and his aura.
If these mirrors could talk. You can have the pad. I'm keeping my aura.
This MTV contest brought to you by British Knights Athletic Footwear and Carefree Sugarless Gum.
So whatever happened to the winner of the contest? Well, there was a winner, in fact. In August of 1991, an Ohio college senior won Axl Rose's LA condo. So a student named Erica Aiden, who was a University of Akron, Ohio senior, overcame 400,000 to 1 odds to win the rock star's LA condo in an MTV contest. Now, at the time, MTV officials refused to say how much the prize was worth, but a Los Angeles Board of Realtors report says the average price of similar homes in West Hollywood neighborhood was around $426,229, with space and extras upping the value. So Rose was booked to turn over the keys to Aiden the following month. Of her plans for the condo, Aiden, who was 21 at the time, said, "I haven't really thought that far ahead yet. Sounds like Axl's modus vivendi is already rubbing off." Now, this was the same condo that Axl Rose was accused of hitting his neighbor in the head with a wine bottle in, and sort of served as the loose inspiration behind part of the song Right Next Door to Hell. So here's the MTV report talking about that incident involving Axl and his neighbor.
Rock. It was the kind of police bust the mainstream media love. Hard rock superstar arrested for beating woman with wine bottle. The star was Guns N' Roses singer Axl Rose, who was arrested at his Los Angeles apartment in the wee hours of Tuesday morning after a run-in with his next-door neighbor, a 37-year-old woman named Gabriella Cantor. She charged that Rose had shouted at her when she came home at about 2:30 in the morning, tossed her condo keys off the 12th floor and down to the ground, and then took a wine bottle she was carrying and hit her in the head with it. Released on $5,000 bail a few hours later, Rose had a rather different take on the incident.
I live next door to a psycho.
Yeah? She been off on you, man?
Oh, she's been going off for a couple of years now.
Yeah?
Yeah. But what do you want from her?
What can you say, huh, man?
What can you say? Have a good one. See you in court.
We've been unable to reach Ms. Cantor, who has an unlisted telephone and no attorney of record with the police, but we did speak to Axl Rose on the phone a few hours after his release, and here's his side of the story.
I was sitting here at home with a friend of mine, Dave Lank, and his fiancee, Kane, and my wife, Erin, was asleep. She had a miscarriage last week, and she's just been in bed. And my neighbor was out in the hallway at about 1:30, drunk and yelling to talk to Dave. And she doesn't even know Dave. She just seems to latch onto my friends from Indiana. And he didn't want anything to do with it. And she was out there yelling for a while. And finally, I just went outside, or out in the hallway, and said, why don't you just shut up and go in and crash? You're wasted. And she came flying at me, screaming, what are you going to do? Who are you? And what are you going to do? Hit me, and swung this bottle of wine at me. And I grabbed the bottle of wine and out of her hands. And then she threw her keys at me, which went in my apartment, so I just said, well, I guess you don't need those either, and I shut the door and threw her keys out the balcony and poured the wine out, and then she proceeded to, for about 20 minutes, just run full speed into my door and kick it and bash into my door, and we've taken photos of the door and everything. There's all these black marks and dents, and the doorbell's all bashed up and stuff, and screaming that she's going to stab me and get me when I'm not looking and all these other things. And I told her I was calling the police, and I had the building call the police on her and for me, and we called the sheriff's office, and they didn't really seem to care. And then she went downstairs and was screaming and yelling and called the sheriffs from downstairs, and they came, and she told them that I hit her with the bottle, and so they came up here and arrested me on felony assault with a deadly weapon.
Okay, so you're saying that you didn't actually hit her over the head with a bottle, right?
No.
Okay, has this been going on for a long time?
Yeah, it's been going on in a way that she's been warned by the building if she bothers me or knocks on my door in the middle of the night and yells and whatever, that she's going to be fined by the building for disturbing and constantly keeping it up. Her big thing is to throw parties because she lives next door to Axl. I get calls from club owners and stuff all the time going, you're in for another one tonight. Gabby was in here and she was drunk and, saying she lives next door to you. It's funny, people like Madonna's dancers and stuff are always knocking on my door in fucking strange hours of the night.
Do you anticipate any problem at court? I mean, is this going to be easy to prove your case when it comes up?
I don't know. I don't seem to think I'm going to have much of a problem, but then again, you never know, and I'm not, going to sit here and say that everything will be just fine, because you never know in a court of law what can happen. Yeah. I just know that I'm going to take this up also with a civil suit against her for all the inconvenience and the stress to my wife and, being arrested falsely and everything. So it's just been an ongoing problem, and I've been on the phone with my lawyers and management for about the last year and a half saying something's going to happen, and this is her 15 minutes, as Andy would say, and she's inventing her life. She's one of these people that, like, I feel sorry for her. She's lonely and doesn't have much in her life, but, she's trying to cling on to something, and now she's found a way to get involved, and she would rather be in a confrontation, an argument, than be ignored.
Yeah. Well, you have another place in Los Angeles, another house. Do you think maybe it's time to move there and stay there?
Yeah, but there's things I have in this place, and it's set up as my office and stuff that I don't want to take certain things like fax machines and computers and all that stuff up to the house and deal with Guns N' Roses, the business all the time. I'd rather have that for try to have a family life. Aaron and I are going to try again at this baby thing, and hopefully it'll work out this time.
Rose and his neighbor will be in court to resolve this dispute on November 20th.
There was an interesting article that got published in 2013. So Vulture published an article with an interview with a guy who had a New York apartment to rent, and it just turned out that Axl Rose was his landlord. Basically, Axl Rose was a tenant, I should say. So according to the article, the headline was, "What happened when Axl Rose rented my apartment?" So he told a story of how Axl was the best tenant ever. So he said 3 years ago, this would have placed it around 2010, the legendary rocker was looking for New York apartment to rent. He thought it might be a move from Malibu and wanted to test out New York. Axl was searching for a place without glaring sunlight but with lots of space, and I had both. My place is 5,300 square feet and almost entirely underground. It's in Tribeca, which another benefit for him is celebrity friendly these days. His neighbors would be James Bond or Daniel Craig and Jon Stewart, as well as a gentleman's club next door. Axel came by to see the apartment twice, once when my wife was there, and she reported that he played enthusiastically with our dog and snorted at people who like spaces bathed in light, as the realtors say. He loved the place. Of course, I was worried about Axel. After all, he had a reputation for wrecking places. There is, for instance, this headline from 2008 that said the Guns N' Roses' Axl Rose was one of the worst hotel guests. But he was said to have reformed as he aged. By the time he inspected my apartment, he was almost 50 years old and getting the belly to prove it. He'd apparently developed a respect for property rights, and those of others included. Plus, he agreed to pay an extraordinary rent, and well, I needed the money. Just in case, he offered 6 months' rent as a security deposit. Axel was in a hurry to get into the place, we were told, and so we decamped to Brooklyn. Then came move-in day, and then it went. So did a second and third date. Still, Axel didn't move in, and this pattern may be familiar to fans who waited for Guns N' Roses' album Chinese Democracy. And, you know, of course, these days came and went. It's funny because Axel never stepped foot into the apartment. So the owner had learned that he'd been to New York, though, renting a roomy suite at a fancy hotel with a balcony and, well, lots of light. Still, he renewed, this time at an increased rent. So according to the owner, as far as I can tell, Axel never set foot in my place after his initial viewings. I wondered if he remembered that he'd rented it. Maybe a superstar lives this way, renting apartments just in case, and then forgetting about them. Still, the rent checks kept coming, which was all I really cared about. And when it came time to renew for a third year, negotiations began. But then rationally, his managements prevailed. Axel's ghost rental ended in the beginning of 2013 at the 2-year mark. He said people have mixed views of Axl Rose, but as a landlord, I loved him. If he ever needs a recommendation, I'd happily write him one. Quiet, undemanding, and pays his rent. So that does it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And be sure to follow us on gnrcentral.com for the latest and greatest news. Take care.